Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Lisa Ozaita, and I am the Associate Rector here at Epiphany. At this point, I think that most of us have met. And if not, please stop me and let's meet and get to know each other. It is definitely time. One of my responsibilities here at Epiphany is to work with children and families. And one of my goals is to help parents and caregivers have meaningful conversations with kids. Raising kids is crazy busy. I know, I have 4 of them. It is so easy for our interactions with our kids to center on logistics. What time is practice? Did you do your homework? What do you want for lunch? And why is there a wet towel on the banister? My 2 boys are at college. One boy talks easily and freely. He loves to share ideas and explore the world and its depths for long, long periods of time. My other boy doesn't really offer anything of his own accord. He is full of love and life, but he doesn't really talk much. He will respond to any question, but any meaningful conversation or connection with him requires asking the right questions. One of the projects that I undertook this summer was called the Epiphany Kid Question Project. Each week in my newsletter, I would send home 2 questions for caregivers to ask their kids. And the goal was to create space to be able to hear from our kids and to hear what was happening inside of their lives and in their heart and in their minds. What is it that they think of? We get so busy managing our kids that it's easy to forget to stop and in wonderment at these little humans. And let's be clear, by little humans, I mean all kids, even if they are taller than 6 feet. These questions were meant to help us stop for a minute and create real connection. And some of the questions were things like, what is your favorite thing about our family? I loved this question. There were really interesting answers that I could not have predicted. What do you think you will dream about tonight? And what do you think God says about you? I asked these questions of all of my kids, and I loved the conversations. What was so great about these types of interactions was that I was not trying to get anything out of my kids. There were no right answers and no particular thing that I wanted them to say. I was excited to hear what they would say as a way to get to know them more. And for me, it was an exploration and a celebration of who they are. And this idea of slowing down and breaking the routine is important for all of us. You don't need kids to appreciate the value of stopping and creating connection and having presence with somebody else. The questions that we ask change everything. Questions are a door to transformation, and for good or for bad, our questions shape our reality. Our readings today are full of questions to and about God. In our Old Testament reading, the Hebrew people are in the wilderness. They have escaped slavery, and they have been feasting on manna. And now they're once again struggling against Moses and thirsting and asking for water. They ask Moses, why? Why did he bring them out into this desert to kill them from thirst? When they escaped Egypt and crossed over the Red Sea, they celebrated. They asked very different kinds of questions. They asked in a shout of praise, who is like you, O Lord? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome and glorious deeds, and doing wonders? Now, mind you, God has not changed, but they have forgotten this praise. God is the same God who brought them out of the wilderness brought them out of slavery into the wilderness, and provided manna to eat. And he provided them water as well. But they ask, "Is the Lord among us or not?" In our New Testament story, the Pharisees asked Jesus a question about where he gets his authority. Jesus had been teaching in all of the synagogues with an authority that caught people's attention. We usually hear this story interpreted as the Pharisees trying to trick or to trap Jesus. However, we could assume that the Pharisees are asking Jesus this question because they're trying to protect the faith. I mean, they know that people were following this guy around. People were leaving their jobs and their families. What if he were a heretic or didn't have the right intentions? Is it possible that this question was less to trap Jesus and more to protect the people? And whether it was from good intentions or not, they, as well as the Hebrew people in the Old Testament story, are basically challenging God, saying, "What are you doing?" Sometimes asking, "Why, God? What are you doing?" is almost a knee-jerk reaction. And it might be the first question that comes to mind. One of the Epiphany Kid Project questions was, if you could ask one question of God, what would it be? The answer that kids wanted to ask God most was, why do bad things happen? This is a question that people have struggled with for centuries. It is the reason that many give for being non-religious. They focus on the question, why? Why does God cause or allow suffering? And they don't have an answer to that question. And as a result, they don't want anything to do with that God. First, I would say, maybe that's not the right question to ask. But even knowing that it might not be the right question, we still know the answer. God does not cause suffering. Human choice does. It's humans using their free will that causes suffering. And we talk about this a lot at Epiphany. Love requires freedom. I'm hoping you're hearing this tape in your head about free choice, right? Love requires freedom. God's love wouldn't be love if it were coercive. And because people have freedom and can make choices that hurt others, the planet, and themselves, we live in a world with a lot of hurt and suffering. So we can ask God why things happen, but this question is rarely satisfying. Even if the answer of freedom is true, and I think that it is not soothing or inspiring. A better question is, where can I see God in this? And this, by the way, is everything. It is suffering, and it is the mundane. It is when great things happen, and it is when it is just Monday. We need to ask, where can I see God in this every day? The questions that we ask matter. They change everything. And asking where God can be seen or experienced in our day does change everything. God is not a transcendent God removed from our daily lives. God is entangled in our world. We are surrounded by the divine every day. In the same way that we become so busy managing our kids that we don't take the time to stop and submerge ourselves in the glorious exploration of their being, we can be so busy managing God that we do not allow ourselves the opportunity to immerse ourselves in the awe of living an entangled life. You know what I mean. It's easy to step into the habit of our relationship with God centering on the list. Help Susie with surgery. Help Terry find a job. Give me more love for others. bless our family, bless our home, bless my business. Even gratitude can become a rote list. Thank you for this day. Thank you for my family. Thank you for fill in the blank. And I believe in praying for others, and I believe in the importance of gratitude, but it can be a substitute for letting yourself slow down and ask God the important questions. There's an Ignatian exercise called the Examen. This exercise is suggested to be done at lunch and at night before bed, so twice a day. And it is an ancient practice that can help us find God's hand at work in our daily lives. The Examen starts by slowing down and becoming aware of God's presence. And one way to do this is to be in silence and to feel your heart and to feel your breath. Then we play back our day like a movie and let it go forward frame by frame, slowly. And in your mind, see what is around you and listen to the conversations. What went unnoticed during the day? Find the beauty, the coincidences, and the connections. As you play this movie of your day, be full of gratitude and say thank you for the things that occurred in the day. Saint Ignatius invites us to find God in all things. And that means that we have to pay careful attention to how God is moving in our daily lives. And this is transformative. It is the recognition that God's presence can be found in every aspect of our existence, from the mundane to the extraordinary. When we open our hearts and minds to the idea that finding God in all things, we begin to see the world through a different lens. We start to notice the beauty and the wonder that surrounds us, even in the most ordinary moments. The sunrise becomes a reminder of God's faithfulness. The laughter of a child, a reflection of his joy, and the gentle breeze, a whisper of his presence. This shift in perspective can have a profound impact on our lives. It allows us to find meaning and purpose in every situation, even in the midst of challenges and difficulties. We can begin to see that God is not just present with us in moments of success and happiness, but also in times of pain and struggle. And this realization brings us comfort and hope, knowing that we are never alone. Finding God in all things also invites us to cultivate a deeper sense of gratitude. We become more aware of the countless blessings that surround us each day, both really big and really small. We learn to appreciate the beauty of creation, the love of our family and friends, the opportunities for growth and learning. Gratitude becomes not a rote list, but a way of life, transforming our attitude and our outlook. Finding God in all things calls us to a deeper level of trust and surrender. We learn to let go of our need for control and to place our lives in God's hands. We recognize that He is the ultimate source of wisdom and guidance, and that we trust that He is working all things together for good for us. This trust allows us to navigate the uncertainties of life with confidence and peace. And ultimately, finding God in all things leads to this profound transformation of our hearts and minds. It opens us to a deeper relationship with God where we can experience His love in a more profound way. It enables us to live with a sense of purpose and meaning, knowing that our lives are part of a greater story that God is writing that reveals His intricate connection and presence in our lives. Really perceiving and holding on to this intertwinement that God has in our lives is one of the greatest gifts of our Christian walk. We are able to grasp this gift by asking the right questions. So try a new practice this week. Ask God each day, where were you in my life today? And remember that God is in all things.